Joining me now, Dr. Martin Kulldorff, professor of medicine at Harvard, and Mike Davis, president of the Internet Accountability Project. Thank you both for joining us. Dr. Kulldorff, explain to us your first-person account, your experience with what happened between you and Twitter when you tried to put out some information that you believed in. Doctor, okay. Doctor, I was hoping you're having some trouble hearing me, obviously. Mike, jump into this here because this is really quite a problem here. Look, not only was the government using its law enforcement, but they were pushing people. These people are wearing badges, some of them, but they were handing people money. They were giving these social media companies money to pay for the staff to do this kind of work.
It is a clear First Amendment violation for the government to collude with private actors to censor Americans. And it's even more egregious here because they were censoring doctors and scientists for merely questioning the science. That's the scientific method. That's how science is supposed to evolve. But starting with COVID, they censored these doctors. And you have to ask how many people around the world unnecessarily suffered and even died because they censored doctors who were questioning the vaccine efficacy, or they were censoring doctors who were advocating for COVID therapeutics, and they were questioning these COVID lockdowns. This is egregious what's happened here, and House Republicans need to get to the bottom of this. The only reason we're learning about this from Twitter is because Elon Musk made this $44 billion investment to buy Twitter. Think about Facebook that's 10 times bigger than Twitter, or Google that's 25 times bigger than Twitter. Think about the amount of censorship that's happening there.
Yeah, Doctor, I think we got you back now. My question to you was, explain to us your first-person account, your personal experience when you tried to use Twitter to put out some information that you truly believed in.
Well, it started in the summer of 2020 when I was arguing very strongly against school closures and hoping that schools should reopen. And I was conveying the data from Sweden who had kept the schools open, and there was not a single child who died. And teachers were doing no worse than other professions. But at that time, Twitter put me on a blacklist. So that message didn't come out the way it could have come out. And I think if it had, I think maybe more schools would have been open. I would have been great for children, and now children suffered a lot. Later on, I had tweets that were censored because I was arguing that if you have already had COVID, you don't need the vaccine. And we know that infection-induced immunity or natural immunity is stronger than vaccine immunity. So why waste vaccines on people who don't need it because they already had COVID? But somebody at Twitter thought that was not correct, even though it is by many scientific studies. So that was censored.
Yeah, and Doctor, I'm going to go ahead and bet that you're a little bit smarter and have a little bit more background and experience than some Twitter nerd along the way. Mike, going back to you, back in 2020, President Trump, he was recovering from Twitter, and he tweeted, "Don't be afraid of COVID. Don't let it dominate your life." Well, that didn't sit well with the former FBI General Counsel, Jim Baker, who left the FBI to work at Twitter's Trust and Safety Department. He sent this email to Yoel Roth, Twitter's then head of the department, writing, "Why isn't this POTUS tweet a violation of our COVID-19 policy, especially the 'don't be afraid of COVID' statement?" So, Mike, how does "don't be afraid of COVID" qualify as disinformation when it comes from the President of the United States?
And that's just the problem. They have politicized and weaponized the debate here. This Jim Baker was the same Jim Baker who was behind the Russian collusion hoax. He was the same Jim Baker who was at Twitter when they went out of their way to censor the New York Post over their accurate reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop. And now we see that this Jim Baker pops up again to try to censor the President of the United States over COVID. Jim Baker proves this is just purely politics, what they're doing with this censorship.
Doctor, again, your personal experience as a qualified medical doctor sharing bits of information, it doesn't seem like you were taking an extreme position. You were just saying some things that were common sense from your perspective.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, the basic principles of public health was violated during these last 3 years, and I think it's the biggest public health fiasco ever. And for example, you don't just focus on one disease like COVID. You have to consider that lockdowns and other measures that affected other aspects of public health, including cancer screening, cardiovascular disease outcomes, and mental health. So you can't just focus on one single disease. That goes against principles of public health.
Well, that makes sense to me, and thanks for helping to illuminate that for us. Dr. Kulldorff, Mike Davis, thank you so much for joining us on the Ingraham Angle. Do appreciate it.